Hey everybody, this is Chris. I've been recording videos for quite a while and I kind of had a little lax time in there, so I appreciate your sticking around. It was some interesting times in the last couple of years. In any event, I am going to create a series of videos to kind of make up for my uh, hiatus, if you want to call it that. And I am going to call it how I use SketchUp in my architectural practice and construction building company. So over time, I've been using SketchUp since about 2001, somewhere in there. I think that's about version 2. So I think I'm fairly well experienced, although honestly, until SketchUp 7, it wasn't worth a great deal. So I put it up on a shelf and waited. Once Google purchased SketchUp, then it became something very viable. Anyway, these are going to be very informal, so don't look them to be real polished because I don't care about that. I want them to be conversational, and in that manner, I encourage you to leave comments, uh, asking me questions. I promise I'll be looking at the comments. Ask me questions, give me some insight as to what you'd like to have me address, what topics, that sort of thing. So, we'll just kind of go on with this. I'm going to create two initial videos here, one for the steel framing construction in a general sense, and then one a little more detailed. So we talk about how this is actually constructed and how you would draw it. First image here is kind of a cutaway of everything that's going on. There's not a whole lot of exterior walls, but the whole point of this is the steel framing. And I'm going to take this so that we'll start from the bottom, kind of like you would in a real job. We'll start at the foundation, erect the steel, etc. Just keep adding to it. So we'll just kind of start. This is just another view, but now I have the whole exterior, at least the sheathing and the windows, the storefront, if you will, and brick. Uh, this is roofing, EPDM roofing, pink insulation, tapered insulation on the roof, concrete slab, metal deck, bar joists, uh, steel framing and plywood for the parapet, brick veneer. So I'm going to go back to the start. And if you look at this, you're going to see basically a foundation. And that foundation is really the part of the building that you see here. So that is what we're boiling this down to. So all the stuff above this foundation is going to go away temporarily because it's on different layers. I can turn them off and on. So for example, here's foundation over here on the right side on tags. So it's been tagged to be foundation. So we'll go to foundation and you'll see that beside. So what do we got here? We've got column spaces here, hole openings in the slab. We've got the cutout for the control joints in the slab. We've got our foundation walls, and we've got our footing and the pad footings for the columns in the center with a concrete pier. So that pier is what you're seeing here. I've done some color coding, if you will, so that the slab is that dark gray and the light gray is actually a concrete material from the materials in SketchUp. The grid is basically exactly that. It's just a drawing. The lettering, I've used the 3D text as it works the best, I think, for this kind of application. It stays where you put it is what I'm going to get at here. Other types of text tend to want to float around on you. So there's our foundation. And in the next video, we'll talk about how we're actually going to do these things, or how I've done them, if you will. There's our column springing out of the foundation. And that's basically taking a section and running from one section, which would be down here at the bottom, and up to this section. So there's scenes. So one scene down here, one scene up here at the top of the column. And when you go transitioning from one scene to the other, columns will appear, at least in this direction, as if they're growing out of the building slab. Same thing here for beams. So these columns, just real quick, have top plates, bolts, bottom plates, and bolts, anchor bolts, whatever you have to anchor your building. The beams are the same. Now the beams, I've not done anything specific, although obviously you could draw these beams to be whatever dimension you need them to be. So look them up in a handbook. I actually have a little mini program for AutoCAD that gives me all the beam sizes and actually draws a profile for me. So they're not that hard to draw. So if you have the dimensions, you can draw them in there pretty quickly. You can see actually the beams are color coded, so the ones that are running front to back are one color and the ones left to right are another color, because the lengths of these beams are different depending on how they intersect. Add the bar joists, which come from 3D Warehouse. You know, I'm not crazy enough to have to draw all that stuff, but that's a group, if you will. I think the beams here are another group, yes. Columns are yet groups in themselves. I think they're actually components, to tell you the truth. That would make more sense. So the more you can group things and put them on separate layers, tags, I guess is the word today. Still want to say layers, but we'll just run through this and show you what it's all about. Next, we had the decking, which again from 3D Warehouse. You know, you're not crazy enough to want to have to draw this stuff. Someone else made the effort. I mean, this actually has thickness, believe it or not. I'm looking at that going, man, somebody spent some time. Probably not. Somebody probably knows a lot better than I do how to do that. So the decking, we went from beams to bar joists to the concrete, to the decking, and now we'll add the slab. And I'm just clicking on scenes that I've preset for this. So the slab is on here for the roof. And what I did on this particular drawing is I made the exterior of the building all together and called it put it on a tag named skin. Now there are also sub tags for the exterior, like for the plywood, I believe. Yeah, for the sheathing. So I can turn the sheathing off and on separately if I'd like. So what's happening there is the plywood is actually on two different tags, one for the group of these parts, and the other is for the sheathing itself. So it's on skin and sheathing, I think. No, it's just on sheathing. Never mind, I lied. 3D plan, and this will rotate around. So this again was a thing with this, there's a section cut through here, and that's how you get floor plans. I'm going to rotate this up. I don't need to, I've got a scene already set. So here I've got 3D plan and plan. Now, what's the difference? Well, 3D plan is exactly that. It's three-dimensional. It's at an angle. It's perspective, if you will. A plan, this is my own mind, obviously. A plan is flat. So this is essentially a 2D drawing, although it's the same drawing. Now I'm looking at directly from the top, and I should be in parallel projection. Yes. Okay. So this also has fill turned on, so the walls and things are filled in with black here in this case. So plan. Here's the grid again. Looks like I lost a circle in this particular situation with the number 3. I'm just going to copy it over and put it over there. Okay, easily fixed. Roof diagram. Now, what does that mean? I put together a layering effect for the roof so it shows you the different components, if you will. Starts with the steel beams, bar joist, the floor decking or roof decking, metal deck, concrete slab, tapered insulation, EPDM roofing membrane. So what I'm looking at is that I could take this and just go to text here, which I would never do this in SketchUp. To tell you the truth, I would do it in layout. But I could pick that and say, you see how it already says slab? That's because I gave it a layer name of slab, or tag name of slab. So I don't really have to do much. I can type in 4-inch concrete slab and just hit enter. I mean, just click on the screen out there and I'll get that. So this is my thought, is why not just do this like this? Metal deck. Now, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't do this in SketchUp. I would do this in layout. And it will do the same thing. It'll put the predetermined names of these things. But why not have this be the way to approach communicating the building construction? I don't see why not. I'm sure that Revit already does this, but I would try to create my own situation. I'm not a Revit person, so I've used AutoCAD long enough that Revit just makes me crazy. So a long time ago, I learned to use SketchUp for 3-dimensional drawings because AutoCAD did not work very well back 25 years ago. So I'll zoom in on another scene here, which is called column and plate. That's what we have. This is the corner wall, the base plate, and the column down to the anchor bolts. That particular corner is going to be reused numerous times in this building wherever I have a corner condition. 2D section and 3D section. So this is the 3D, and you can see maybe a little bit better how this actually functions. And the nice part about this is you can make your choices to what you want people to look at and see. So you can direct their view to specifically what you want. So it's in 3D here. I might say, well, I want you to see this particular situation right here. Okay, whatever that is. So column, beam, and angles, bolts, bar joist, deck. So, I mean, at any point in time, if somebody calls you and says, I want to see what this is, you can say, okay, I'll find that for you and I'll send it off to you here. It'll only take me a couple minutes. So it's great in that manner. I love it because being an architect and in construction, it's nice to be able to feed information to the contractor like immediately. Normally the contractor in my case is my son. So it works pretty well. He calls me up and says, Dad, what does this look like? And I look at my model and go, here's what it looks like. 2D section, that's the same drawing, but basically now flat. So this is essentially an elevation. So it's from one of these, well, let's look at it in camera. Camera, standard views, and you have top, bottom, front, back, left, right, and ISO, which is isometric. To get flat drawings, you need to be in one of these particular views, and you need to be in parallel projection. Otherwise, you'll never get a dead flat. Don't try. It's just not going to work. Anyway, so think about that. let's see, detail edge. So this is the edge detail condition at the slab. So we have steel deck, have bolts. I'll zoom in a little bit. Bolts, the plate on top of the column, I-beam, bar joist, metal decking, concrete slab. I just put a space in here because in SketchUp lines will transfer through other elements sometimes. So sometimes it's best to just leave a little space so they don't, sneak up through there. You see, I'm sure you've seen it where, you put sheathing on a roof and the rafters all show. The best way to, fix that is to leave a little bit of space. Real drawings and in reality, what we do is they're not necessarily to scale either. They're visual aids, if you will. So here, I've got a metal angle to, enclose the concrete deck. I came into a situation with the metal decking that I probably would have never noticed that this decking wasn't doing what I wanted it to. So I threw this little channel in here. I don't know if it's right or not, but it's good enough. Basically, I'm addressing the situation, telling somebody they need to put something there. The rest of this is metal studs for the parapet, plywood sheeting on the back side of that parapet. So I have to sneak it down through behind this angle, or the order of things might have to be considered here. The little blue stuff here is the insulating sheathing. The nice baby blue stuff, purple sometimes. The gray is a parapet, probably done in, I don't want to say Dryvit, but a material that I'd call a synthetic stucco, probably formed with expanded polystyrene. So it's lightweight, so it can hang easily on this metal stud wall. That's what this is here. Metal decking, concrete, metal, styrofoam insulation that's tapered. So we get a flow of water off to the left here. This thickness is the EPDM roofing, which I know, I understand is way overscale. But again, it helps minimize that leakage through the different layers of materials on your drawing. Detail connection. So here, and you don't necessarily even have to draw all of these, or put them in place. You just have to put enough of them so you can rationalize the appearance for someone. They'll understand. If you want to put them all, you can. If you want to make them components that all have the same name, you could actually get a counting of them. Let's look at this one for a minute. Components. No, that's not what I want to do. Entity info. Okay, so that's a component. It says there's component 3 in the model. Clip angle 1 is what I called it. Definition is clip angle. So it tells me there's 3. So if you do draw all of these things and you put them in there, you will get a count. It's not necessary, but if you're using this system to do your estimating, it's good to put all that information in there. And it's really just copying, just multiple copies of the same thing. Here's a detail section, which in this case is an elevation. So all the bolts are there, the clip angles are there, and the steel beam is there, running both toward us and horizontally. Off to the left and right, the bolts for different purposes are colored slightly differently. And I kind of like the light colored, sort of pastelish colors to help people read these drawings better. It's always been an issue in my mind that we always have to use, like on the steel beam, heavy lines to describe what's going on. If you use light lines and light colors, you get a really crisp looking drawing. This is completely against everything I've ever been taught, but I like the fact that it looks like this. It's so crisp. Okay, so this is just a different view, looking from the top right, if you will. These are all movable, so you can look at this from any direction you want just by orbiting or zooming with your mouse, whatever you'd like to do. So once it's done, these scenes are not permanent. As you see, well, they are permanent, but they're not permanently fixed in space. So you can use them as a starting point. I use them to move around in the drawing. So if I want to work on bar joists, I just click bar joists, and there they are. If I want to work on the decking, I just click on decking. If I want to see the plan, I just click on plan. So I don't have to go zooming and booming all over the darn place just to get the drawing I want. Set it up ahead of time, and you're good. Let's see, where was I? Second overall. I just stuck this one here so it was flowed, the system, the series flowed a little better. I can probably add even more stuff to this, but for example, remember that little angle that we had showing the insertion of the holding up of that concrete slab and the enclosure at the edge. That little channel, I think it's way back there, but it was just inserted for that one particular drawing, so it showed up. Sometimes that's all you need. This moving section, we'll go back to the overall thing so you can see it work in both directions. So again, what that is a section cut here, which is not really even a section, it's just barely outside the building. And then another section at the other end, and go from one scene to the other, which one includes this section, one includes that section. So as you do it, it does that. Now what that was the model actually being rotated. So one scene was rotated from the other. So you get kind of an interesting multi-purpose or multiple motion situation. Excuse me. I told you it's not going to be polished. So moving section, and all that is two scenes that are rotated from one another. You can close up see these things. So wherever you want to show somebody, it's there. Take it as far as you want. I mean, take it as little as you want, whatever works for you. Adding fill, not P-H-I-L-L, but F-I-L-L. That's over here in the section window. So this is a toolbar. If you don't have that toolbar, the way to get toolbars, I'll show you. You just right click on anything up here on the top toolbars up here, and you'll get a list of all of them. And you just click on it, and then you'll have it. So if you're looking for something, right click, you'll get all the toolbars that you have. This one has quite a few, obviously. Okay. This is my favorite one, Lord of the Toolbars. So when I added fill, you can see here, remember the other fill we had before was black. So I went to styles and I did an edit for the fill color. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, but it's in the styles dialog box. I changed it from black to gray. Black is just a little strong for my eye. This is something I prepared just to show the contractor how the wall is built a little more clearly than just a simple wall section. So it starts with brick on the exterior, insulating sheathing, so pink styrofoam, plywood sheathing for shear requirements, metal stud wall. This is 2x6 metal studs, or 1 5/8 by 5 5/8. I guess it truly is. I don't care about stuff like that, quite honestly. 1/8 of an inch is 1/8 of an inch. If I'm off by 1/8, I don't really care. 1/2 inch or 5/8 drywall. This is a commercial project, so not 1/2 inch. And then the finished wall back here. This gray down at the bottom is the slab. Okay. And then we can get a wall section if you want. So this is one of those building sections, just zoomed in a little bit. If you look back off here, you'll see that it's really just a section through the whole building, but now I'm zoomed into it. So you get the whole little picture here. Again, if I want to, I can get even closer. If you make scenes of these kinds of images, you can recall them in layout and start labeling them up, dimensioning them. Uh, so basically, what I'm saying is you draw it one time and you're done. Uh, one time seems like a lot when you're doing it, but when you get to the other end, it's like, huh, that happened rather quickly. So what I'm going to do is quit, give you this whole thing again. Steel framing construction with SketchUp as we use it in my office. I don't do a lot of commercial work, but this was done for a client who really wanted to have steel framing in his house, more for aesthetic purposes than anything else. And the other purpose was we had not too different than what you're seeing here, steel columns with nothing but glass because it's on a river with a great view in Tennessee. So he liked the way it looks and he liked the ability to fill in with glass in between these columns so they can create the structural rigidity that we needed. Anyway, I will be putting up another drawing, or excuse me, another video here real quick about how we actually created this drawing, how we create the details, where we put components, where we put groups, that sort of thing. So for now, I'll say goodbye and have a great day, and thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe if you don't mind. That helps me out a little bit to kind of offset the cost of doing this. And I'm being a nice guy, I'm spending time putting these things together for you. So some appreciation would be nice. If you don't want to, that's okay too. But anything you can do to help would be appreciated. Thanks. Thanks for coming. Have a great day, and we'll talk soon.